My name is Buffy Cautella, and we're back here with another episode. Today, we're joined by
Ray Tatten.
So, Ray has a bunch of books that he's going to talk about today. Do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit, talk a little bit about yourself before we jump right in?
Sure. My name is Ray Tatten. I live in Sterling. I have 2 grown children. I live with my wife and my daughter and a nice little Yorkie dog. But I've been writing for about 10 years. And I know, Buffy, one of your questions was, what made you decide to be a writer or whatever. So I never decided to be a writer. It just kind of came for me. And I'll just tell you that in general, I went to a book critique group. It had nothing to do with writing.
Yeah.
And at the end, the teacher said, "Hey, what makes a good story?" And we talked about that. And then she said, "Let's start our own story." So I, like the other people in the group, I came up with 3 sentences. I mean, they had a whole page. So I felt inadequate, but my 3 sentences made such an impression on people. They were raving about it. And something clicked that I felt like, hey, that really felt good to have people tell me they like what I wrote. So I've been writing ever since. That's how it happened.
I love that. That's a great story. That it just happened kind of naturally, and you seemed like you had a knack for it, and clearly you do, because you've been writing for 10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
So, what is the title of your newest book, and what is it about?
Okay. Well, the newest book is called Moving Willy. And those 3 sentences that I just described, when I got home, I started taking writing courses, and, I started, well, maybe I'll write about that, or maybe I'll write about that. And it was about when I was a kid. I grew up on a farm in Harvard and spent time in Lowell. So I had these different episodes that after I'd put it on paper, I'd think of another one. And the next thing I know, my wife walked in one day and saw all the papers. She go in a pile. She said, "Is that a manuscript?" Talk about being a writer. I'm like, you know what? I think it is a manuscript, now that you mentioned it. So that has been building for 10 years, polished and taken to critique groups, and it's just been there. I tried to find an editor or a publisher or whatever, and went through that whole adventure, sending out query letters and all. So that's been here. And so I finally, a few weeks ago, a month ago, I decided, I better put this thing out because I might not be around to put it out. Someone else might have to. So I want the satisfaction of putting it out. So it's a story of my life between the ages of 9 and 11, where we lived in Lowell, really rough town, very crowded environment. And then we moved to my father's farm in Harvard. Now, this was before they built 495. So it was just woods. This farm, you couldn't hardly even find it, even if you knew where it was. So I went from the city to that isolation, and that was a whole different experience. So I wrote episodes about that, and then I stitched them all together in a book. And that's my latest book, Moving Willy. It's about 350 pages, and it's about me. I wrote it in first person, but not as myself, as a different character. Willy is me. I named it Willy. So, and I published parts of it. Now, the reason I say that is when I first started writing, I was taking writing courses, And the first thing I ever got published, I think you'll appreciate this. The first thing I ever got published, I was thinking, who would like to read about my life back in the 50s in Harvard before 495? And I decided that people in Bolton might, because 495 goes right through the town.
Mhm.
So I sent an email with a 300-word essay to the Bolton Independent.
Yep, the newspaper.
And about 15 minutes later, I got an email back. I was watching a ball game and I'm like, I'm going to send this out. And I sent it about 15 minutes later, I got an email back and I'm like, well, I guess I didn't send that right. And it was the editor. And she said, I love this piece. We're going to publish it next week. That was it. I was gone. Now it's like, what else can I send? That's really what started me getting the taste of being published. I bought about 20 papers when it came out. It was just electrifying. So that's how I got started. Really, it was a piece that I took out of the book I just described, and I pared it down to made it small enough to get in the paper. But so that's what my latest book is about.
That's wonderful. I love that. So they're just mini vignettes of your life. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's so wholesome too, of the 50s and everything. Is that what your other books are about? Also, no, they're different.
No. The one that I just published before this is called Moving Text. It's called Text Mostly. That's the name of it. And we could probably talk about this more in depth, but one of the writing courses that I took was a 10-week intensive on short stories.
Yeah.
So, it started off where you were supposed to listen to people and come back to class with a conversation that you overheard, and then we'll make a story from that. And then you build it each week, you build it bigger and bigger and longer and whatever, and using the mechanics of a short story. And the last class was going to bring a 4,000-word completed short story. Now, I didn't have the energy to do that. I didn't think I could come up with something new. That's a lot of words. So I had the bright idea, I'll take some of my novel and I'll distill it, compress it, stitch it together, see if I can make a short story out of a piece of it, which I did. And once again, the teacher thought it was great. She recommended I send it out, which I did. It was published by a literary magazine. And then I decided to make it a book myself, which I did. And then I recorded it and I put it on a YouTube channel that I have. So that's called Text Mostly, and that's a 4,000-word book, short story.
How many books do you have published right now?
I have 3.
You have 3. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and are they all about your childhood?
No. The first book is a compilation of 35 essays. And the essays range, they're all personal, of course, but they range from a number of topics. And the way that the essays began was, I mentioned I take some writing courses. I continued there's a 7-Bridge Writers Collaborative in Lancaster.
Yep.
That I've been going to for a number of years. And one of the classes is the teacher will send out a prompt on a Sunday, and then you take that prompt and you write an essay based on whatever hit you. We're using that prompt, and then bring it to class, and then we read it in class, and we go around the room, everybody has a turn at critiquing it. Well, I like this, that wasn't so good, that type of thing. So I had a bunch of essays, and I had sent some of them out, like the one to the Bolton Independent. I had sent out several that had been published. So I had some pretty good ones. And then I had some others that I just liked.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I wonder if I could make a book. I'll never get this published by a traditional publisher. Never find an agent. I'll do it myself. So I went to a course on self-publishing, and I was like, that's really not that hard. If you have a computer, let me just take a stab at it. So I did, and it one thing led to another, and I picked out 35 of my best essays. I put a picture. My wife made a cover for me. We put a picture together for the cover, and I put it out on Amazon. And of course, my friends were interested. They bought it, and then other people started finding it. And I was really surprised at the reaction I got from people. People would say they're short essays. They're 300 words. So the analogy I use, they're like potato chips. You can't read one. You can't eat one. And I've had, like, not so much now, but when I first came out, I had 7 different people that I bumped into, whether it was in a class or at the library or whatever. 7 different people told me they read the book in one sitting. And my reaction was, I should have made it longer. And they're like, no, I couldn't put it down. I'd read one, and then I want to see what the next one was about. So that, I don't have to tell you how reinforcing that was.
No, I know. I know. Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
People ask me, why do you write? Do you like to write? I don't really like to write all that much, to be honest with you. I like reading it or having people, after I get something done, I'm like, I can't wait to read this in class. That's what I enjoy. I like people saying, I read that, I read your book. My favorite essay was this. I really love that. That's what keeps me going. And now when I'm concentrating more in getting these books out, I've had people tell me, I read that book and I really liked it. And I like hearing that.
I totally agree with you because, I was saying before we started the interview, I mostly do like screenwriting and things, but there's nothing I love more than finishing a script and being like, who can I send this to read? Because even if it's not very good, like eventually you'll get to the point. And yeah, like I had a script and I sent it to my teacher and she was like, I read it, it was like over 100 pages or whatever, like a feature film. And she's like, I read it in one sitting. I couldn't put it down. And I was like, this is amazing. Like when you hear that, you're like, I'm doing something right, right? There's nothing, I've never felt like that before because I've never written something that long, and you probably hadn't either written something that long. And the fact that people were like, yeah, it was a page turner. It really makes you feel good. I like writing a lot, but I also do like the sharing part. I love critique. I think critique is like the greatest thing you can get. And that's super cool that you're doing like writers workshops and writers groups and everything.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you want to talk? You can talk more about that if you want. Do you feel like that's...
Well, this might be a good place to bring it up. So I mentioned the group that I had been in for years, where you get the prompt and then you work on it all week and then you bring it to class. So that, you have time to polish that up and which is not always a great thing. But the group that I've been in the last 2 years is more extemporaneous. In other words, we go there, there's 8 of us, and the facilitator will have 3 prompts or 4 prompts or whatever, it reads a poem or whatever, and just to kind of get you going. So, in matter of fact, she's pulling them out of a hat, so she doesn't even know what they're going to be. And then we write for 25 minutes based on either the prompt or maybe something on your mind or just whatever. And then after 25 minutes, then we each read what we've written. And then each person will comment on that. And the idea being, because it's so raw, you don't try to fix it. You just go. And that's freeing in itself. And you're not editing as you're going along. You're just getting it out there. And it's amazing what comes out and the quality of the work that you are able to do, the people in the group are able to do, just letting it go. And I enjoy that very much. And then when you actually put something together that is good, it's good, and people say it's good, that's really super duper. I mean, you haven't really even worked at it. You just blurbed it out there and it's good. So that's a real fun course. I and the people in that course, we've been together now almost 2 years, the same group, and everybody says the same thing, especially, with COVID and all that. That's really something we all look forward to each week, getting in that group and doing what I just described. It's really fun.
So is your writing process very much now, because you're in that writing group, is it you're just trying to put something down and then you'll go back and edit later? Is that what you've settled on?
Well, my writing exercise endeavors right now is really just putting together what's complete. I published a text mostly now. I'm finishing up with Willy, and I have another one that I'm going to do as soon as I get a cover. So I really haven't been in the mode of writing new things, and I really only write when I have to. Like I mentioned that getting the prompt on Sunday, and then the class was Thursday, and I'm like, Wednesday, oh God, what am I going to write? I can't go to class without anything good. So when I was forced to write, I was doing some really good stuff. And now in the critique, in the group I'm in now, I go there and I just kind of sit and try to be open to the prompts and just really make a conscious effort to just let something come, as opposed to, I'm going to go this week, I'm going to write about that. I'm trying to stop that process to just go and, try to, just sit and be quiet and see if something kind of hits you. So in that sense, I'm forced to write something because I have to come up with something.
Yeah.
So in those two scenarios, I have to do it. Other than that, I don't sit down to write. I'll find plenty to do, and it's not writing. So that's really my reality. But
no, that makes sense. So then I guess this is a natural transition to, like, what is your goal as a writer? Like, what milestones would you, because you don't even really like writing that much. But I don't know if you have specific goals that you want to hit, like, along your journey.
Yeah, and I saw that question and I did ponder it. You sent it to me earlier. And, it's not a good thing when you don't have goals. And I was thinking, do you asking myself, do I really have a goal in writing? Because, like I said, I didn't start out to be a writer. But if I were to be perfectly honest with myself, I was thinking about it. And I think now I finally came up with the answer. What I would like to see, I would like to see one of my books on the big screen as a movie.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's what I would like.
Do you have a specific book that you want to be made into a movie?
Well, I think Moving Willy, the nature of the book, it's kind of like Old Yeller. I use that analogy. Huckleberry Finn. It's a kind of a kid book because of the protagonist, but it really has a general appeal to baby boomers would relate to it. Families would relate to it, because of what the story that's in there. So I think that would make some kind of a production because it has a universal appeal. But the other book that I'm ready to publish, I'm especially excited about it. It's a historical novel set in Lancaster in 1705. So it's based on true events, and I think it could make a very good movie. So once I get the cover made, and that's a whole different adventure, I'm ready to go. I've really polished the manuscript, and I'm hoping that's going to be well received. And especially because I think it's just because it's historical, I think there'll be a good appeal. I mean, people that live around us, Hudson, Bolton, Clinton, Sterling, I think we appreciate our history. Well, we maybe take it for granted, but I think we have an underlying appreciation of the things that happened here. And so this story is about something that really happened here. And I don't want to spoil it by giving it away, but um, it's really incredible, the story, and I'm surprised it never really has made it into the big time.
Well, this might be the novel that puts you on the map, or
Could
whatever,
be.
right? Maybe and who knows? Maybe there's a movie. Maybe there'll be a movie.
I know where there's a screenwriter. I know a good screenwriter.
You do.
I just met her.
Yeah, that's me. I don't typically do historical stuff, but I know people that
Oh,
I know people who would, if it, you know,
you
if
got a guy. You got a guy for me, right?
I do. Yeah, I do. I guess. Would you want to write a screenplay or no? Are
I
you?
would. Yeah,
You
yeah.
would. So maybe
I
you'll just
know.
do it.
I know that's a different skill.
It is.
Yeah, I know that's way different. So it's something I would have to learn, but I think I'd rather hand it off to someone that knew what they were doing and said, and that said, hey, I was trying to get an agent, and I was online on a course, and I added some of the book to the person whose course it was, and she said, holy cow, this should be a movie. So I've had that kind of reinforcement. So my dream, I guess, would be to hand it to someone and have them come back and say, yeah, this should be a movie. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make a movie out of this. Have to do a screenplay. So that's a pretty good goal, I would say.
That's a great goal. I think that's a very, very good goal. Um, yeah, I don't know. I obviously I'm a movie buff, no pun
Yeah.
intended.
As a
But
matter
yeah,
of fact,
I love that. That's a great goal.
you know,
So
and I don't watch a lot of television, and once in a while I'll get into a movie, and even that's rare now. But I find myself wanting to know who wrote it,
that's good. Yeah.
because I appreciate the like watching The Sopranos. I've been going through it about the fourth time now, but I appreciate the dialogue and the characters and the nuances that I never appreciated before because I really wasn't looking at it like a writer, but now I am.
I guess to segue into the next part, I really have one more question.
Yeah,
Which essay is your favorite and why?
yeah, that surprised me, that question that you put out, and I had to think about it. I have two. I have a favorite, but I do have to say my favorite was until very recently. It's called Out There, and it's about whether it's writing or singing or everybody's got something they try to express themselves with, whether it's playing golf or even working.
Yeah.
There's a need in everybody to put themselves out there. And so I wrote about that. Once again, it's 300 words, and I've read that at open mics, probably too much. I like that part. But my favorite now is, and I'll preface this with one of the classes, the teacher, her name is Winona Went, and she teaches at Quincy, and she also teaches at Seven Bridge Writers Collaborative. And one of the weeks she said, one of the techniques is when you write is try to be a video camera. So in that sense, you don't know that that person is the son of that man or the wife or that, whatever. You don't know anything. All you know is what you see, right? So write a piece with that in mind. Just tell the reader what you see. Don't say why the people are there, what the history, backstory, nothing. Just describe. So I took a shot at that, and it was fun. And I wrote about, it's called Getaway. And once again, I'm not going to spoil it, but the setting that I was seeing through the camera was a beach with families. They're immigrants. They're trying to get away. That's the play on words, getaway, because I started it with they're on a nice beach. You're thinking it's a Sunday getaway, but it's a real getaway. And it's about the dilemma the tragedy that's going on in the world with Syrian refugees and other refugees, running from war. And it really bothers me. So anyway, I read that, and I like the way it came out. And I sent it out, and it was published by Adeline Literary Magazine. And then they shortlisted it for Essay of the Year. They get thousands of essays. It was one of 43 essays, candidates for Essay of the Year. So, I think, I really hit a nerve with that, and I'm very proud of it. So I read it, and I put that on YouTube too. So anybody that's watching this that's interested could go to YouTube and listen to it. So I won't spoil it any more than I already have.
No, that's phenomenal. And I love that lesson of show, don't tell. That's kind of, as a screenwriter, obviously I'm writing what people see, but when you're writing short stories and stuff, I find, if I'm reading people's short stories, they just tell you everything, right?
Yeah.
But the best books are the ones where they're just describing and doing exactly what you said, describing the scenes and things. So now I'm going to definitely listen to this after we end this interview, because now I'm very intrigued. Before we end, is there just anything else you want to talk about or touch on? Like social media, and like where you can buy your books, that type of stuff?
So if you go to Amazon and you type, my first name is Edward, so I go by E. Raymond Tatten. And if you go to Amazon and you just search by that, you'll see the 3 books come up. And if you'd like to listen to some of the essays that I put up, that's the YouTube channel is Edward Tatten YouTube. So I think I would stay there. But I think what I most want to end with or add to this discussion is when I found out that I was interested in writing, my wife saw an article in the paper. Fitchburg Art Museum was having a weekend writing course. So I signed up for that, totally enjoyed it. And then she spotted a listing for the Seven Bridge Writers Collaborative, which I mentioned, in Lancaster. And they've been going for about 7 years now, and they're expanding. And now, because of the virtual nature, they're in 7 different libraries, groups in different libraries, or were in libraries. Now it's all on Zoom. But so the program has expanded. One of the directors is Paula Kastner from Lancaster. And Winona Went, I mentioned. There's others, Lucinda Bowen, who's the facilitator in a group that I'm in. So there's 6 or 7 founders who have kept this and expanded this. But what I most want to say is, it's like, I'll give you an example. I met a friend online from Harvard. She, made some comments about my writing, and she said that I recommended Seven Bridge, which she joined, and she just loves it. So it's a resource right in our backyard that's free, and it's weekly, and it gives a writer that feedback, and it nurtures the writing instinct. And it's really, without that, I would not have continued writing, for sure. It just made the difference for me. So I would highly recommend that people look into that. And, they bring in professional writers. They give talks about, the skill set. There's something coming up at flash fiction course. I took a short story course. There's any number of how to self-publish that's coming up. So it's like I said, it's like going for an MFA. I say going for an MFA and live in journalism without the student loans.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm intrigued. I'm gonna have to look into this after. I guess any final things besides that, or should we just wrap it up?
I guess we could wrap it up. I think we covered a lot of ground. It was really a pleasure meeting you and hearing your enthusiasm for what you're doing. It's really exciting to hear someone that really has an idea of what they want to do and they're going for it. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, total pleasure. I think your story is great. Your life story, not only your life story, but all what you're doing, I think is really important. And I'm really glad that you brought up this collaborative that people can join. I don't know. It was a very pleasurable talk. And I don't know, just thank you so much for coming on. This has been Book Talk. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys later.